We're gonna show you how to get your rifle on target at 100 yards with no rounds fired. Let's save you some dollars. An average box of hunting ammo these days costs what, 60 to 70 bucks?
At least 40 to 80.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It gets really expensive. So if you have a brand new hunting rifle, we have this rifle. This is a 6.5 Creedmoor set up in a brand new timber core. In order to bore sight your rifle, you really only need basically 2 to 3 things. You need a rifle with an optic. That's part one. Part two, you need a way to adjust your scope, whatever tool that is. Beyond that, you're gonna need some ammo to validate your zero after the fact. And you should be on target within 1 to 3 rounds at most if you do this properly. The first thing you need to do to get your rifle going is actually to have your optic and your rings set up appropriately for your rifle. If you don't know how to do that, check out this link. Now we're ready to start bore sighting. Bore sighting is very simple. We're simply going to pull out the bolt of a bolt action rifle.
If you have an AR that a lot of people do, simply take apart the upper and lower, take out the bolt, same principle, just different moving parts.
Now, we need something that's very solid for support. If your gun is able to tip, roll, or slide very easily, that's not good. So we want to use a very solid front surface, something like a pack or a sandbag.
Or a bipod.
Your bipod will be perfect. We are not actually going to look through the sight at this point. We're going to be using the bore to bore sight. So all I want to do is move my rifle until I find an image of a target. It doesn't really matter how far it is away, but it ideally should be at least 50, even closer to 100 is better. I'm simply going to align that so that the object I'm aiming at is in the absolute center of the front of the barrel and at the back of the barrel by the chamber. I want those 3 things to be center, center, and center, so concentric to each other. So here I'm just aligning this to that IPSC, making very small squeeze adjustments to the bag, adding more fill, letting the gun settle. I'm gonna lower the rear and just tap it until it's centered. There we go, and that's as centered as I can get it. Without touching the rifle, I'm going to look through the optic. What I need to do is adjust my turrets to move the reticle to match what the bore sees. If your target's here and you're seeing your reticle, we don't want it at the center of what we see as our target. We want it to be about 1 mil or 3 MOA lower of that. The bore is looking in the middle, the reticle is looking here. That accounts for the initial drop of the bullet at 100 yards. So step 1, look through the barrel. Target is in the center, lined up with the barrel and the bore. Now, step 2, without touching the rifle, look through your optic. You can see I am high. Come right. 1, 2, 3. I'll put it down about 4 clicks. There we go. So this is now ready to be test fired for your first shot.
Some scopes, they have an auto 0 set stop. And if you need to rotate under that, all you have to do is loosen up the turret, dial it up in elevation, tighten back the turret, and now you're able to dial back down.
Ready to test fire. At this point, we have fired no rounds. It was a 127-yard target. All right, so we have a small hanger on that system right there. We're gonna aim just above that in the center to give us the most area to see. Dan, are you up on glass?
I'm up.
I am about 1/10 above the hanger.
Copy that. Oh, you hit the hanger.
I hit the hanger. So, if you practice a little or test this, you can actually get very, very good at bore sighting a rifle.
That 0's already better than most people's 0 at the range.
Yeah. We'll take a second one just to make sure this wasn't a fluke. I'm gonna put it directly between the hanger and his crotch line. So it'll be right between the two if I did my job. Yep. There are those small bore sighting lasers it's a cartridge you put in your chamber and it shines a laser out the bore, or a laser that you put into the muzzle of the gun. They can work, don't get me wrong. But if your chamber isn't pointing in the exact same direction, or if your chamber is cut large or has a little bit of play, the cartridge, if you can imagine a laser beam coming out of this, the bore is looking directly to you. The cartridge can be pointing somewhere other than that, and that laser will end up on target, and you will now align your sight to this sort of kittywampus laser. Conversely, you could have a perfectly centered chamber, but actually have a barrel that is slightly twisted one direction or the other. So even though you think you're pointed where you are, the muzzle exit can end up somewhere else.
If you're in a hunting scenario to where you drop it on the scope and you're unsure if it held 0, and you don't have the luxury of taking a shot, you could always double check your bore sight with the scope to make sure it's still aligned as best as possible. I would trust that over any other device out there.
Yeah.